Let's make meatloaf. Hi, it's Tanya from My Forking Life, and today we are making a classic dish, meatloaf. Now, this meatloaf recipe is one of my favorites because not only is it flavorful, but it also stays moist and juicy, and there's a couple of steps on how we get that juicy, delicious meatloaf. Plus, you can serve it for dinner, as well as you can have the leftovers and put them on sandwiches. Now, I'm not just gonna make a meatloaf today. I'm actually gonna make a full meal. So I'm gonna also show you how I make mashed potatoes and green peas so we can have meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green peas. And that's what I'm telling my kids we're having for dinner tonight. They love it. So for this meatloaf, we're gonna keep it traditional and use ground beef, but we're going to add crackers. That's gonna be our binder, as well as some egg. We're also gonna add some onions and green peppers. These also not only provide flavor, but also moisture, and some seasonings, of course, garlic powder, paprika, salt, and pepper. All right, let's get started. So I've got those crackers, and I do give you a number of crackers to use, 20. And we're gonna just crush those. I wanna make sure get those nice and crushed. I really like this method. Crush them up real small. Now, I like using saltines because you get your salt and your breadcrumbs basically from the crackers, but you could also just use bread. So we're gonna add our saltines to a small bowl. Those are now our breadcrumbs for the recipe. And then I'm gonna take some beef broth. You could use chicken stock, whatever you have on hand. But what this is gonna do is create what's called a panade. And that's gonna help our meatloaf not only stay together, but it also will provide some kind of flavor. So I'm gonna just mix this together and set that aside to let the crumbs soak up all that liquid. All right, so I'm gonna dice a whole pepper and just half of this whole pepper, a whole onion and just half of this green bell pepper. I'm gonna peel off that outer layer. That's a little bit too green for me. And we wanna dice these ingredients because you don't want too big of chunks of pepper or onion in your meatloaf. So just try to get them cut quite small. Oh my gosh, I forgot to say this again. But make sure that you preheat your oven before you start. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, so that it is nice and hot whenever you're ready to start cooking. So I've got all my veggies chopped. I am going to whisk an egg. I'm going to whisk an egg. And my rule is anytime you have an egg that you need to add to a recipe, break the egg over a different bowl, whisk it in a different bowl so you don't get any eggshells in there. All right, so I'm gonna add to a large bowl my ground beef. That is 2 pounds. That nice, what is it called? The panade. I'm gonna add that, kind of looks like oatmeal. So add all these ingredients to a bowl. Do that, as well as my beaten egg. All of my diced peppers and onions. Now, if you want them cut smaller than this, you could always run it through a food processor. That's as small as I'm gonna get them. And our other flavoring ingredients, which is some ketchup. Worcestershire sauce, W sauce, some paprika, salt, garlic powder, so we don't have to chop garlic, and some black pepper. Now the fun part, we're gonna mix it. Now usually I don't wear gloves, but I'm gonna wear gloves today to mix this because the meat is kind of cold and it usually makes my hands really cold and then I don't really get to mix it as well as I want to. So, you know, I'm gonna just do this. We also wanna make sure we don't over mix our mixture. We wanna just mix it until everything is mixed together. Don't mix it too much or your meatloaf will be tough. And we don't want that. Whenever I get this on, I'm going to work. Fun. I should have used the bigger bowl. That's good. We're going to make sure we get it all mixed up. Now, I have made this recipe so many times that I know exactly the amount of seasonings that I can add to this to make it taste exactly how I want it. But if you're ever making like a meatloaf or a meatball recipe and you're like, I wonder if I want to add more seasoning, just take a little bit of that mixture and like fry it on the stovetop in a little bit of oil and then taste it. And then you'll know if you need more salt, pepper, garlic powder, whatever seasonings you want to add to it. But do not taste it like it is now, because that will make you sick. And I'm just trying to make sure that all of the meat has some seasonings, some pepper, some onions, and some of the Worcestershire sauce and ketchup in it so that it can all be incorporated. I am also using ground beef that is fully fat. You could use 75% lean, 85%, because fat adds flavor, but the cool thing is the way that I'm gonna bake this, the extra fat is gonna drip off anyways. If you get meat that is too lean, your meatloaf may end up being dry. Alrighty, this looks good. I'm gonna stop mixing it so I don't get it to be tough. Alrighty. I'm going to put it on a sheet pan lined with parchment paper. Now I know some people like to bake their meatloaf in a loaf pan or a bread, some bread pan things. I never like that because I just feel like your meatloaf is just sitting in the fat. So I'm going to put it on the pan and I'm going to form it into a loaf of meat. Here it is. Yum, I made a loaf. And you want to kind of give it a little bit of love on the sides so that it stays compact. I think that's enough. All right. Now I'm going to put this in my oven that's been set to 350 degrees, and it's going to take a while to bake because it's a 2-pound meatloaf. If you're cutting it in half and you're only doing a pound, it will bake quicker. But it should take about 50 minutes to an hour. You just want to make sure that the temperature is 165 degrees. All right, I'll be back. Now that our meatloaf is busy cooking away in the oven, we are going to make our mashed potatoes. So I've got 5 russet potatoes. For a good mashed potato, you could use russet, you could use red, you could use Yukon, you could use a bunch. But I'm gonna use some russet and I'm gonna peel them because, I don't know, I like my mashed potatoes to not have skin in it. Sometimes I do though, sometimes I don't. Today I don't, so I'm just gonna peel them. I don't like this peeler. I thought I liked it, I don't like it. I'm gonna use a regular peeler. Yeah, get rid of the skin. Actually, I did like that peeler. Can't decide. All right, I'm gonna peel 5 potatoes. I'm just gonna get rid of these little eyes here because I just want my mashed potatoes to be nice and like just pretty, like no little bits of skin in it. So I have finally peeled, I'm acting like it took me that long, but I've peeled all my potatoes and I've got the skins here, and I'm not gonna just toss these. I like to put some oil on them and put them in the air fryer for a little bit to crisp them up, and then just snack on a few of them. So now I'm gonna take my peeled potatoes and chop them into really large cubes before I well, technically kind of boil them. I'm gonna make these mashed potatoes in my pressure cooker. It is probably one of my favorite ways of making mashed potatoes. Super easy and super fast. So I'm chopping these potatoes kind of large, mainly because I'm going to put them in the pressure cooker and I don't want them to completely disintegrate in there. And I have made mashed potatoes in a pressure cooker before on this channel. It's just been a very long time. So I'm going to make them again. But, oh, that didn't even like make that noise. Chop, yeah. Chop, 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 chop. I've got my pressure cooker here. This one might be my favorite. It's so pretty. We're gonna add all our big chopped potatoes to our pressure cooker insert. Bam, all right. Now you can't build pressure without liquid. So I'm gonna add some water. It's not gonna cover the potatoes completely, but it is fine. We're also gonna add some heavy cream. That's gonna not only provide flavor, but also liquid. And I've been asked if you could use milk in place of the heavy cream. For the pressure cooker method, I would stick with the heavy cream because milk can curdle under pressure because of the fat content in heavy cream. For whatever reason, it doesn't really curdle. And then I'm just gonna add some butter on top. And then I'm gonna add, I like a lot of butter. So I'm gonna do about 3 tablespoons. I'll add my salt later. So I'm gonna let this cook on high pressure for 11 minutes. It's gonna take about 15 minutes for the pressure to reach before this timer starts. And then once that 11-minute countdown is done, I'm gonna let it chill for 3 minutes, which is known as like a natural release. And then I'm gonna quick release the remaining pressure. Okay, I'll be back. All right, so our meatloaf has been baking in the oven. It is not done, but it is looking nice and golden. Sorry, I forgot to turn off my notifications. I'm so popular. Anyways, we're gonna make a glaze, and I'm gonna put some ketchup and brown sugar because I think the best part of a meatloaf is when you get that nice, sweet, and tangy glaze on the top. So, glaze is really simple. It's just some ketchup and brown sugar. Dop it on the meatloaf and spread it around. Cover all over. And you'll notice again why I like making my meatloaf on a sheet pan, because the extra grease just kind of just falls to the side. So I ain't gotta eat that. Just dop it all on there. All right. All right, and I'm gonna put this back in the oven for it to finish baking, as well for this glaze to get a little bit caramelized. All right, I'll be back. So I like to have some green peas or greens, I guess, when I'm making my meatloaf dinner. So while my meatloaf cooks away and my pressure cooker keeps steaming away, I'm just gonna make some regular peas. And I think peas just need to be simple. Just get some frozen peas, put some water on them, put them in the microwave. That's it. Maybe a little bit of salt and pepper. That's it. That's how I like my peas. So, anyways, I'll be back. My pressure reached a timer. We let it naturally release about 3 minutes, and now I'm just gonna press this button to release all the remaining pressure before we open it and see what we have. And I'll know all my pressure is released when that little button goes down. Yep, it went down, and I can open the lid. So you'll see, what will you see? A bunch of potato cubes in some liquid. And I'm just gonna mash my potatoes right in the pot. You could take it out, but you know, just gonna take a potato masher and go ham. And the reason why I like this method is you don't have to worry about boiling the potatoes and draining them. The pressure cooker will keep all that liquid in, and all you gotta do is just basically mash them. And because I didn't add salt to this before, I'm gonna add it now. Add as much salt as you like. Taste it, adjust, but the pressure cooker method will give you the creamiest, easiest potatoes. It's one of my favorite ways to make mashed potatoes on the side. Oh, it was hot. I forgot it was hot. It's good though. It's really good. And just enough salt, pepper. If you find you want more butter, you can add it at this stage. All right, put this in a bowl. It's like plopped on there. All right, once I put this out, I'm gonna get back to my meatloaf. Bubbly, bubbly, bubbly. We made meatloaf. So our meatloaf is done. I'm gonna let this cool for 10 minutes and then I'm gonna slice it and serve it up. I'll be back. I'm gonna try to move this meatloaf. I'm gonna try to move this to a better platter. It's so pretty. Look how pretty it is. Because I don't want that grease. Let's see if I can get it all on here. I got my big old spatula. Don't break now. Don't break now. Don't break now. Bada bang. I was able to do it. Yes. Success. Ready. So my meatloaf dinner is done. I've got my meatloaf, my mashed potatoes, and my green beans. And I'm just gonna slice this meatloaf. I have had it sitting here for about 10 minutes. It's still nice and hot, but got my onions and my peppers, and it's nice and juicy. And as you can see, it's still firm. I'm cutting some really thick slices here. All right, let me go ahead and put this on my plate. I'm also gonna take the end piece. I like the end piece. Gives you more glaze. Opportunity for glaze and crispy edges. Well, when I'm eating my mashed potatoes, I just basically break the meatloaf and put it all together with the mashed potatoes, so I don't necessarily need gravy. And my peas. Peas are sweet, so I don't really add anything, maybe just a little bit of salt, but that's it. And there you have it. You have made delicious homemade meatloaf with mashed potatoes and green peas. Green beans, peas, so goodness gracious. I'm hungry, let me eat. Here's some meatloaf. So you just mix it all together for that one bite. Actually, I'll save the peas for later. Bussin'. All right, y'all. Till next time. Bye. Over here. Let me turn it on. Oh goodness. Let me turn it around so I can see it. There we go. Actually, is it plugged in? No, the thing came out. Why you didn't say anything? You saw it happen. All right.